I'm seeing a ton of comments. Well, you guys are raring to go tonight. You know what? To Doc Insomnia. He was the first one to check in tonight. Mine's not going on here. What's that? Mine's not showing real high. All right. Well, just close out and come back in. Okay. You always have that. But anyway, Doc, all I can say is uh, that this is the way that rock and roll will die. This is the way that rock and roll will die. This is the way that rock and roll will die. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. And that certainly seems to be part of the problem with the current set of artists that are out touring. And really, for the last 10 years, we've seen this, the start of this. Rock artists, rock stars who are not at their best, and making up for it by playing to backing tracks or lip syncing, okay, or having their sound filled out by a laptop behind stage that has a ton of tracks with orchestras and stuff on it. Laptop is saying that the rest of the people are on the other live stream there that didn't work. Huh. Well, we're going to have to let them get on in. I don't understand the other live stream. I'm on the same live stream, or thought I was. Now, I did have to adjust my orientation. Okay, there. Just bear with us, folks. We're trying to figure out, are we getting people in now or what? Am I on the wrong thing here? I'm going to come in all the way fresh myself. And for anyone, let's see, I had to go out and re-enter. Okay. I am so sorry about that, folks. We're still working out the kinks and everything with this with the stream, and I'm trying to get back in myself to see, so that I can keep up on all your fine comments. And let's try this. All right, that looks like I'm pretty much on. We've got 18 watching right now. We're going to let people filter in. Okay, I am so sorry that you had to reconnect, Stormcop. James, I'm sorry about that. Welcome, Larry Zobel. Singing to tracks. All right, good deal. Ships Ahoy. Now, have we seen you on the stream before? Ships Ahoy is a longtime commenter on my videos. And by the way, if you made any comments on my last video, folks, I'm just doing my usual John until we can get a few folks in here. I hate it when things don't go to plan. It just anyway. But if you got a heart on my last video, but no comment back, real simple explanation on that, folks. The reason for that is because the video was done extremely well. One of the bigger videos on my channel, not the biggest, but certainly it's doing like 47,000 views right now. And at last count, I think I've had a couple of thousand thumbs up. All right. So anybody who did that, thank you so much. That helped drive that video to such great success. And by the way, I want to welcome the over 260 brand new subscribers to this channel. And those brand new 260 plus subscribers have joined this channel in the last 48 hours. And a lot of it had to do with my past video. All right. And so when I'm going to be talking about that video tonight, I want to talk about some of the responses. My good friend Bruce Cologne from B-Sides, I pinned his comment on that, and he got tons of thumbs ups. And what was it, over 100? And he might be out there in the audience right now. If you are, Bruce, hi. He got over 150 comments on his comment, right? and some of them were pretty nasty. And we'll get into that as we go along. Like I said, I'm just waiting for some folks to kind of trickle in. And if you have, been here but forgot to give me a thumbs up, that would be helpful. All right. Every 50 thumbs up, you get a little bump, and then another 50, it goes to a slightly larger audience. And that's exactly what happened with my last video. You guys supported that video so well that it just skyrocketed. All right. And it wasn't even a video I was planning to do. I even said that at the beginning of the video. I had to set up the studio and everything in order to shoot it because I had just released my latest video on the top guitarist as voted by you guys, by the way. So there's a dedicated, what is it, about 4-minute video with a soundtrack and listing the guitarists in countdown fashion, right? So I had just gotten that one out. I had typed responses to some of you fine folks, and I was ready to go to bed. And as is my wont, I decided, well, let's check out YouTube. Maybe there's like something to quiet my mind with. And that's when I came across, do I got something? Hair grows in the strangest places as you get older, folks. But of course, that's when I took note of Paul McCartney's Saturday Night Live performance. And it was such a jaw dropper for me, and not necessarily in a good way, that I immediately created the thumbnail and knew that when I eventually woke up the next day, I'd have to make a response video on that. And this is nothing new for me, folks. All right. You'll find that on my channel all the time. Some of the things, besides, I'll cover stories of days of yore. I just recently did a video dedicated to covering Black Sabbath's very first album, all the details are going around how they recorded it, as well as a track-by-track analysis. So that's one aspect of my channel that I've always provided right from the outset. I also provide shorts. I do polls. I do all of that. But when also in my videos, I should say, I also cover the problems that I see with rock and roll. Now, I'm an old-time musician. I've played every dive bar known to man, at least in my area, right? Every junior high, high school, junior college, university, right? Block parties, warehouse parties. I've done it all, right? And so I've been very active as a musician in the music scene on a local level. And I'm also a music fan, just like you folks. No different than you. I buy albums. I'm not listening for, is he using a minor pentatonic scale with this run or anything like that. I just listen to the music and I love it. And when I finally went over to this channel, I found myself went over to this channel. I should explain that. My channel was a tech channel to begin with. And I did a couple of videos on Peter Jackson's Get Back movie. And they had far out, as a matter of fact, it was the first video I ever got 1,000 views on. I was a tiny channel. And so I switched over because I knew that music is something I definitely know something about, and I definitely have an opinion on. So that's when the channel switched. And of course, that first year, I covered mainly catch up with, all the albums of Led Zeppelin, all the albums of the Beatles, stories of Led Zeppelin, stories of, their reconnections, Pink Floyd. I've done stuff on Yes, Queen, just a plethora of bands. That was the first year. Second year, I started turning my attention to the concert stage, as it is today, the concert circuit, I should say, right? And I noticed, first of all, the very first video I ever did was a video protesting the high prices of concert tickets. All right. And then I started noticing other things that bothered me. Bands that were out there touring that weren't who they said they were. And of course, many of you know what band is on my lips right now. Let's all say it together. Foreigner, right? Okay, and we'll talk about Lou Gramm. I want to talk about Lou Gramm tonight because I have a list of people I want to talk about. Now, the reason I decided to do this video is because, or this stream, I should say, it is not only the connection to my latest video, which, like I said, is doing gangbusters out there. A lot of brand new members to the tribe because of that. But my biggest video I ever did, I think it's clocking in just under 390,000 views. That's about as close as I've ever gone to a truly viral video. And that video is my most popular video, and I've got it down in my popular video section. Just go to my channel page, and I think it's the next section down from my 6 current videos. That's how I run my channel page. You go over there, and you'll see my 6 current, videos, my 6 latest videos, and then you've got popular videos. And my most popular video was Rockers Who Need to Retire, and I did that 2 years ago. And in that video, I was talking about, bands. It just blew me away. First of all, one of the bands I mentioned in that video was Genesis, because when I put that video out, Phil Collins had just finished their tour with him sitting on a chair, okay, not drumming, which is his instrument, besides being lead vocalist for the band, right? His son was drumming for him, and they had to cart him out on stage and sit him down in a chair. And I know I never went to the concert, so I can't say how they sounded live, but everybody generally said they sounded wonderful. So there's a position that, or a band that I would say is in between and in betwixt position for me. All right. They put out a solid show. His vocals were stellar, but at the same time, he's not able to give the performance. And that isn't that part of the reason we go see these guys live, to see them perform. And he's not on the instrument. And he's one of the predominant drummers in rock. I don't know how high I'd rank him. I don't know if he'd even make my top 20, maybe. But, he's a great drummer, and we're not getting that. And we get this old shriveled man in a chair, which happens to the best of us. And I understand that. All right. But then we also have entities that refuse to retire. And a matter of fact, I think that big video, Rockers Who Need to Retire, was the first time I mentioned Foreigner. And I got to tell you, my thoughts on that band, first of all, I have so much respect. I'm a major fan of the original Foreigner. All right. I mean, they were responsible for some of the very best hits on AM and FM radio. They had deep cuts on their albums that were fantastic. I loved that band, and it got to the point that it was Mick Jones up there with a bunch of replacements. And I thought, oh, man, I don't know. See, and it's mainly because of the lack of Lou Gramm. I'm not sure how I would have felt about 2 members of Foreigner touring with a bunch of other replacements, but that certainly would have been more Foreigner than it has been since Mick left, or not Mick, but Lou Gramm left. So then we saw Mick making less and less shows, and pretty soon the shows that he did show up for, he wouldn't arrive. He was limoed into the stadium. He wouldn't arrive until about 45 minutes after the show had started. And he got up there sometimes for as little as 20 minutes and never more than 45 minutes. And that bothered me. I mean, it was like, I can't believe this. Now, ever since, of course, he's no longer even touring with them. I'm hearing that Lou Gramm is going to be touring with them, or at least in some limited capacity. Lou Gramm, in my opinion, has it right. He's announcing, if he's good for his word, that he's retiring in 2025. But before he bounces out, he's going to go ahead and go and tour, at least in a limited fashion, with Foreigner. Evidently, only singing either portions of songs or one to three, four songs, something like that. Very limited. It's not like he's going to be fronting the band. And I think I heard that they got a new lead singer tapped in and stuff like that. We've been hearing how Kelly Hansen, for the last couple of years, has been bitching and complaining about how much longer he can do this. I frankly didn't care how much longer he could do it. He was never much um, uh, of an interest to me. I mean, he's got a great voice, right? And if he had admitted, and the band had admitted to being a Foreigner clone band or a cover band, I would have been fine with that. A tribute band, okay? And I might have even been a fan of the guy singing, but it's like his taking on the mantle and the band and Mick doing it. It was all mixed stuff. But these guys, Jeff Pilson, who is recently, he's not ready to call it in. That's why they've got this other singer on tap. If I've got my my info right, I just had time to tap in just barely on this matter today, folks. But Jeff Pilson has been saying for the last 6 months several times that Foreigner is set to tour all the way through 2027. And this was at a time before Kelly was even out of the, Kelly had made a couple of, comments about, well, I can't do this forever and everything. And there have been some, complaints about his voice and everything from fans. And it looks like, but this is the problem. See, Foreigner has become a brand. That's not a band. That's a brand. All right. Do you guys like to shower with Irish Spring? I like it too. It's manly. No, I'm serious. You have your favorite brands of whatever, your favorite brands of food, your favorite brands of fast food. Okay. And that's what they are now. They're not, they're a chain, and they're out there performing to a uninformed, in my opinion, concert going crowd. And that's because most of the people that go to concerts are going to be under a certain age, right? And you're not seeing tons of us, older folks, right? Like you did. I mean, we packed those stadiums back in the day, and now we're probably at best maybe 10% of the population, no more than 15, I would imagine, of any given concert. And so you've got your younger concert goers, and a lot of them, and this was true back in our day too, except the graft or the grift, I should say, um, wasn't quite as bad. Actually, it didn't exist for the bands that I followed, right? I mean, there were those oldies from the 50s that started doing what is so predominant these days. But even back then, when you'd see the OJs with one member and five replay or whatever their complement was, you knew it was an oldies show. They were even, they were even, you know, sold as oldies shows. They weren't. There was no doubt about it. They were. And they do fairgrounds and things like that too. So we've seen this kind of move before, but nowadays the problem that I'm seeing is we have a concert going audience that is uninformed and really truly does think that they're seeing Foreigner when they go see him. They really thought they were seeing Kiss, even though, in my humble opinion, Kiss ceased being Kiss. Kiss is one of those bands that's identified by its core membership. All right. And so when Ace Frehley and Peter Criss wasn't there, they weren't really Kiss for me anymore. And but tell that to the Kiss Army, you know. The Kiss Army will be at those shows, those 3D shows that are coming up. So that all kind of gets down to what kind of got this stream going, and that gets back to my um, video on Paul McCartney. All right. So I want to know from you guys in the chat tonight. Now I'll get to the chat here in a moment. Oh, and by the way, again, if you haven't thumbs up the stream, please. You know, if you're just getting in, I know we got started cockeyed. I'm so sorry for that. Actually retitled the stream, and I didn't know I had to reset my orientation. So I learned that won't happen again, right? And I even remembered to keep my headphones in this time. So, but I'm new to this. This is the seventh tribal forum, right? This is only my seventh stream, so we'll get better at that. So I will get to your comments here momentarily, but I wanted to get back to my thoughts on Paul McCartney. Now, when I watched the replay of it, I did, like I said, I didn't watch it when it was happening live. I don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore. If a skit looks like it could be kind of cute, I might click on, a 5-minute click or skit on YouTube. That's about it. But I was interested in seeing McCartney. I'm a major Paul McCartney fan. All right from the outset with the Beatles, right from the outset of his solo career with the McCartney album. I collected every single album. I bought them. I was there the minute the store opened. It didn't matter if I was in my teen years, 20s, 30s, 40s, and well, beyond. I was there first thing in the morning. That's how big of a fan of Paul McCartney I am. All right. I also consider him one of the greatest vocalists of rock and roll, right? Right up there with what Robert Plant has to offer. And you guys know what I feel about Robert Plant touring these days. I think he still has something to offer. His voice, by the way, isn't what it used to be. As a matter of fact, the last couple of years of Led Zeppelin, his voice wasn't what it was on those first wonderful albums, right? But he stays within his capabilities, if you'll notice that. And he'll even rework old Zeppelin songs and to better. As a matter of fact, he did this supremely in 2007 with the Celebration Day concert. He would go down a minor third and whoop a minor third lower than the original root whoop there, doing a John Lennon trick, a harmony underneath. And most people didn't even realize that wasn't the original whoop at the end of that song, or screech, or scream, or Robert Plant delightful squeal, right? So when I see Robert Plant, I want to pay good money to go see him. I almost saw him last year. Royce from Royce in the House, my home away from home, got a chance to see him, and I didn't. I came that close with Alison Krauss. All right. And he's smart enough, and this is another thing. He's smart enough to hook up with a vocalist that's going to take off some of the pressure from him and give him a chance to do what he always wanted to do anyway, is to sing and harmonize and all of that, which he rarely got to do in Led Zeppelin. So then this gets me to Paul McCartney. I've got to tell you, when I saw it, I felt that I just felt sorry for Paul. That was my first, oh my God, because you could see it on his face. He knew he wasn't hitting those notes. His voice was cracking. It wasn't coming across strong enough, right? And missing notes. And then it got even worse when he went over to the guitar. Now I'm trying to remember. It's that famous section of where John, Paul, and George each trade licks on the second side of Abbey Road, right? And Paul got to his part, and I'm trying to remember if they have four each or three licks each. I'm remembering three. The first one was okay, but I mean, it was played right and everything, but no zing, no zag. And the other two, they follow, the other guy follows, and then Paul gets it and totally messes up and winds up having to do like a duck walk from a Chuck Berry thing, which isn't even in the solo there. And then those two traded off again, and then Paul finally got it together. And so kudos to Paul for the ultimate professional. I'm sure he had his bad nights back in his prime in Hamburg, and things aren't going right. I'll bet you it was Paul who would correct the situation live on stage. And he did do that, so kudos for him. So I can't say, I shouldn't say can't say. I would have to say you can't find a stronger Paul McCartney fan. Now, you can find Paul McCartney fans that have gone to see him a lot more than I have. I paid to see him 3 times. I saw him twice. Third time I got sick, I let my son have the ticket, and he said it was the best concert he's ever been. He was so blown away. And that was in the mid-2000s. It was around that time that, what was that, the album, the live album that Paul McCartney put out, Live in New York or whatever, right? Isn't that the one where Billy Joel made a guest appearance and everything? But it was on that album. See, I'd heard the cracks that were quite acceptable on Trip the Live Fantastic. All right. And all you have to do is just listen to Paul or watch the movie Rock Show, listen to Wings Over America, and you'll see how great of a freaking vocalist this man was in his prime. Come Trip the Light Fantastic, I started to really notice the cracks, even before that with some of the albums. But I noticed that it was almost an aging of a fine wine at that point. And even with Trip the Light Fantastic, he had that raspiness that has gone totally overboard now. But he could still hit every freaking note, and he could still sing clear when he would sing, "Hey Jude," not "Hey Jude," "Hey Dude." And so, to me, that was the third and final time I went to go see him. Then I heard the Live in New York live album, and that was the first time I go, I don't think this would be so fun for me anymore. And I didn't swear him off at that point, but I did kind of, tell myself that, you know what, I'm just not that interested in going to see him. I'd see other people. All right. So that was my whole idea on the whole thing. And I did get a lot of criticism. And I'm probably going to get some here tonight, I would imagine, when I finally get to you, good, kind folks. But part of the criticism was, listen, man, he's a legend. One guy says, he's a legend. He shouldn't have to ask some old geezer like you who should retire, right? Permission to retire, man, And so after laughing that off, stab in the heart, I understand that kind of loyalty. I really do. You can't get much more loyal of a fan of Paul McCartney than me. Now, a lot of you are going, well, yeah, except that you think he should probably think about retiring. I don't think he should retire. I think he should retire from performing live, or he needs to reconsider his set list and sing what he really can anymore. He seems to do okay belting out some of the rockers, right? But it's a bit like seeing, I feel like that little kid that's taken to the emperor's court by his mommy, and everybody's swooning about his clothing, and all I see is a naked man. You know, I know it bothered Paul. You could see it during the performance. Watch it again and watch him. You could tell. Oh, he such the consummate professional. You won't notice it if you're just a average McCartney fan. Well, I've seen him on this or that. But if you've watched him over the years like I have, there's that moment in his eyes that he's going, oh shit, right? So Paul wasn't happy with it, and I'm wondering, what that means for him. Now, everybody, I brought this up in my video as well. Everybody for the nights leading up to this was saying how wonderful he sounded at the Bowery. And I've got to ask the question, is that really the truth? I mean, is it rather a fact that you've got fans that are just so loyal, so there's nothing that Paul McCartney could ever do wrong, and there are fans like that all they hear is Golden Slumber sung with a golden tone when he performs it? Because I can tell you, if it sounded like it did on Saturday Night Live at the Bowery, even one time at the Bowery out of 3 shows, right? Isn't that what he had? Then to me, that sounds like a lot of people are living in denial regarding, being being a Paul McCartney fans. They're living in denial. They just can't see no wrong. Anyway, so let's get on down here. I want to see who's in here. We've got 52 watching. Well, welcome all 52 of you.
56.
56. Oh, yes, I just saw that jump. Well, welcome. Storm Cop's in as usual. Hi, James. Oh, and by the way, James always reminds me of this. James is always good about every once in a while, leaving a gift with us through super thanks. And I do want to tell all of you, this is uncomfortable for me to even broach. All right, folks. I'm not really good about saying, please, feel free to give me a super thanks. But I will say this, if you are kind enough to do that, I always give you a shout out in my next regular video. You get a rock star shout out for it. And I'm always appreciative of it. And I'll tell you why. Because all of that goes into building up this stream right now. All right. As you can tell, this stream, it looks like I'm backwards again, right? Yep, I'm backwards again. Okay, it doesn't look backwards here, but it looks backwards there. All right, so I want to get out of this, kind of streaming condition as soon as possible. So any of you who will do that, always know you'll get your shout out on the next one. And give me a question if you do that. And Kimberly will bring it up. I'll highlight that question and I'll answer it and give you a shout out right back here. And then you'll get a shout out on future videos always. All right, because I do appreciate those who can financially support the channel. But here's the thing. If you're watching this video and you give me a thumbs up, you already done me 2 solids. All right. If you're not in a position to help the channel out, I understand that. Right. Times are tough. But watching my videos and then going the extra distance and giving me a thumbs up is a big help to this channel. As a matter of fact, it was you giving me a thumbs up that sent that latest video out, and we are now a tribe just about 300 stronger than we were day before yesterday. All right. So a big thank you to all of you, and a big hi to Storm Cop there. Day Tripper, hello, Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly has her fans. Michael Rochester, when Paul McCartney used to tour. Where did you go, Michael? I just saw you. Yeah.
Grateful Dog said it would be cool to have Rachel on here with you.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to have Rachel up as soon as I can get people up. See, this is what I'm talking about, folks. First of all, and I'll get to you here in a second, Michael. the streaming platform I have, this is it. I can't call people up. I would have had Royce up by now for sure. So I'm limited in what I can do here, folks. And I want to get beyond and get into a platform where I can have some guests up. And of course, Rachel would be welcome anytime. She's always welcomed me to her show and did me a big solid by allowing me to help uh, her interview. Terry Draper from Klaatu, one of my favorite bands. So that was a bit of a dream come true for me, and I always appreciate that. So Michael was saying here, if I can find the first one was saying, what I'm trying to say with Paul McCartney is that he's trying to get the same sound. You're jumping all over the place here with less people, which is very suspect. He had a whole horn section and backing. Okay, great point, Michael. Great point, great point. And I've said this before. My favorite Beatles song is Eleanor Rigby. First of all, it has multiple writers on it. All right. It's got John Lennon in there. It's got Ringo was the guy who came up with, we should have Father McKenzie darn his socks, you know. And so that's where that line came up with. I love the lush orchestration. I love the remaster of that with the new technology that came out. And I've often complained about, how they have Wickham, is that his name? Wax Wickham on keyboards. I may have that name wrong. Who's actually played with Paul McCartney as a band member longer than any other human being alive, by the way. Okay, so and he's playing the strings, right? And I'm going multi-billionaire Paul, and charging, at one point $5,000 a ticket. You know, don't know what they're going for, what they will be going for on his next tour, and I think he is going to be touring here. I think this is all a setup, right? That's why he was there on Saturday Night Live, right? So when he tours, he's got wax supplying all these strings, right? And it sounds fake. I even have brought that up in past videos. And you're right. Uh, Casey and the boys should be there, or at least, as many of the old gang he could get and get up there and fill that sound. This is Paul freaking McCartney, folks. This is no this is no Burt Cummings from the Guess Who might have a slightly less, a smaller fortune to invest in this. This is billionaire Paul McCartney, and I'd like to see him kind of, invest more into his live sound. So really good point. Catherine, I bought a ticket to see Paul Simon. He's in his 80s, and I'm not expecting perfect vocals from him. I love his music. I hear he performed too and had a female vocalist doing with him to cover for the fact that his vocal range. Catherine, what happened? I thought Paul Simon retired. Isn't that what we went through last year? I thought, didn't he do a big thing on CBS, Sayonara? Hasta la vista, baby? I thought so. Is he back? Well, I knew he had played, but I thought, well, maybe it was a one-off. But he's actually selling tickets. I'm a major fan of Paul Simon. I don't know what he sounds like. Maybe some of you fine folks could let me know. But if he's up for it, I'd love to see the man. It was him, Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, Fleetwood Mac, and Elton John. That was responsible probably for 80% of the hits, number one hits anyway, of the 80s or 70s, man. All right. It was one hit after another, and that was after the phenomenal success of Simon and Garfunkel. So, yeah, that'd be cool. I really enjoyed your take on Paul McCartney. I went and watched it, and you were right on. Thanks, Grateful Dogs. I appreciate the confirmation. Let's see who else is here. Ian, who I've already said hi. You guys probably missed my intro. I thought I was being clever and nobody was here. But you can rewatch it from the beginning. It was response. Ian was the first one in today, hours before the stream. And so him and I had a bit of chit chat and back and forth. That's wonderful. Let's see else.
Helen Spalding came in.
What's that?
Helen Spalding came in.
I didn't hear you, babe.
Helen Spalding.
Oh, Helene. Good to see you, girl. Awesome to see you as always. Longtime supporter of this channel. And as a matter of fact, she's got to be, as far as the rock and roll portion of this channel, for about, let's see, I started in October of 2021, and my first video was October 28th. All right. So October 28th, 2024 was my third year here. And then it starts my fourth year. Well, my fourth year is actually being started. Well, it actually started. Today is the 20th. It started with my last two videos. We're into season 4 now. All right. I always start my seasons off at February 15th because it was February 15th that I started making nothing but rock videos. And Helene has been here from the beginning. And with her kind help, I got a lot bigger. All right. Talk about thumbs ups. Boy, she went the extra distance there. I've talked about her quite recently. So I don't think she likes me over talking about her too much, but she's a sweetheart. Yeah, Phil said he can't play drums anymore. I understand, Chips Ahoy. And again, I'll say this, Chips Ahoy, longtime commenter on the regular channel. Let's see, Catherine says she saw Phil Collins in 1990, but seriously tour. Amazing show. Yeah, I'm sure he was. For what I understand, they sounded good on their last tour. I'm just talking about as far as the performance aspects of it. Now, here's another thing. I had Ken Stacy. Now, most of you aren't going to recognize that name, but Ken Stacy got in touch with me about 2 years ago, and I didn't have a stream going then. And Ken, if you're out there, I'd love to interview you. Him and I wanted to do an interview. Now, Ken Stacy is the vocal coach for America's Got Talent, or was at one point, right? Now, Kenny Loggins ran into problems that Paul McCartney's running into, and this is what I wanted to bring up more than anything tonight. He went to Ken Stacy, and Ken Stacy worked with him to get his vocal prowess back and was successful. Kenny Loggins did a fantastic tour, vocals great, vocals powerful. There's a man who he looked at himself, he wasn't looking at himself through the ego. He was going, man, I'm not sounding like I want to. And so he contacted Ken Stacy, right? Famous vocal coach. And Ken Stacy whipped Kenny Loggins back into shape. So now, what do you guys think about that? Should Paul McCartney consider hiring, the man can afford it, a vocal coach at this point? We know Paul wants to tour until he drops dead. I mean, he's teased that he wants to live to 100, and there's only one thing he knows how to do. That's to write songs, perform those songs, sing those songs, play those songs, right? I mean, it's all one organic being with him. So when some of you folks criticized me along those lines, I can understand that. Yeah. Because, and here's another thing. I'm glad I looked at my notes here. A real good content creator, TJ over at TJR. All right. Now, he just did a video and he said, I haven't watched any other content creators' videos. I just watched Paul McCartney. And these are my thoughts on the criticism of Paul McCartney, right? So he hasn't seen my video. He hasn't seen others. And his whole idea was that, basically, Paul McCartney should retire when Paul McCartney decides to retire. And I thoroughly agree with you, TJ. You're absolutely right. Uh, that's up to each and every individual when to call it a day. But my problem with it is that there's a lot of money being made here, and not just by Paul McCartney. And I have this thing that if I'm going to pay, I want my money's worth. All right. And I don't care who it is or how big of a fan I am of them. If they're not up to snuff, I want my money's worth. Now I'd like to know why that's wrong. And I'll tell you, uh, it's always been in the power of the fans, as far, for the most part, when somebody retires. If people go see Paul McCartney, he wouldn't be making any money. There'd be no reason to do this. It'd probably cost him to actually drag his band out. They're not making any money, so he's got to dip into his bill. Yeah, he's not going to do that, right? So it's all a matter of the fans as to when most artists retire. If they quit going to the concerts, they quit filling the seats. There's no reason to continue. They already quit making albums to tour the old hit albums. And so nobody's coming to see them. They don't want the hits anymore. And that's when you usually see a band die with a retirement announcement. And the announcement should be, yeah, we retired you, Funkadelic. Okay. So anyway, that's my opinion on that, right? As what Paul decides to do, I certainly have no power over that. And I can't imagine, places like Ticketmaster or Live Nation refusing to do business with him because he's not up to snuff, because they don't give a damn whether he's up to snuff. They only care about what money they can make by selling tickets to go see the guy. They don't care if he sounds good or not. Not one iota. There's no love lost between these business partners and different areas that are involved. It's not just Live Nation. It's not just Ticketmaster. Live Nation also owns the venues, but the venues also that don't have them, they have. Oh, there's this. I've done videos on that. I won't bore you, but there are so many aspects, even the hotels, motels, fast food, restaurants, all in on it. Okay. And none of them care whether Paul McCartney's voice sounds good or not. They just know he'll sell tickets, right? And that gets to me, man. That bothers me a bit. I It gets back to the whole idea of what I consider to be an uninformed concert going audience. I mean, they honestly think they're seeing all these people. Another person I wanted to bring up, what about AC/DC, folks? All right. God, his voice has been gone forever, and they're still out there doing it. And there's video on YouTube after video of them just sounding very, very wanting at the very best. Um, Kansas, and this is part of it. Kansas lead singer just announced that he has cancer. Was it? It was with. I'm trying to remember where it was because it was. Jesus, where is that? Yeah, places in there. Okay, I didn't write down what it was, but evidently it could be treated. And he said, "I'll be right back, folks." Well, he himself is a replacement member. He's only been with the band for 11 years, right? And we're so far along in the tooth now, even the replacement members are getting old and having to deal with ailments that are, well, most of the time due to aging. Cancer not always, but that bothered me. Ozzy Osbourne. Okay. Um, if you remember, I've got it in my video when I did this on it. I've got the poster up I think on the thumbnail, and it was Black Sabbath. Uh, is playing in 2025, and we're going to have all these other bands. It's Black Sabbath. And everybody ran out and bought tickets, and then it was like a couple of days later, well, it's actually Ozzy Osbourne doing some of his stuff with Black Sabbath. He'll be doing a set with Black Sabbath. And then you heard that Bill Ward was talking maybe 4 songs. So not even a complete set of Sabbath, right? And then we get even later than that from some of Ozzy's core people that they're worried that he could even do it because they don't see how he can. And they are quite connected to, and they're watching him try to walk daily and everything. And then on top of all of that, just recently, and I haven't made a video on it, Ozzy Osbourne has announced that, well, it's not like I'm going to really do a set with Black Sabbath. I'll be doing tidbits with them as they perform. Okay. And I'll bet you not one person has asked for their bucks back, which is the first thing I would have asked for if I had bought tickets for that. That's not how they promoted this concert. All right. And they did it on purpose this way. You see, I think that Sharon knows Ozzy is going to talk Ozzy, right? I mean, that's Ozzy Osbourne. Well, no, which is, I'll have a chicken sandwich on rye. But she's the one that's pulling the strings for him. She's making all the decisions. And she lets him open his mouth with his wishful thinking, or lets him think that he's actually going to do this Sabbath thing. And of course, reality sets in, and she knows that reality will set in, right? And then we start getting this stuff. Before all these announcements happened, what did we have? We had Sharon, Karen's a better name, Sharon Osbourne and Tony Iommi together. No Ozzy. Well, in some cases, they were sitting. Ozzy can't sit. I heard he could sit, but we're not getting that. This is, Don Arden and his daughter can't stand either one of them. So I'd be feeling ripped off on that. We're talking about, we talked about Lou Grant. What about Don Henley, who's lip syncing now? All right. He's been caught. He's been busted. One of my bigger videos on that, right? Over 100,000 views on that one. Okay. The man is lip syncing, and people, you want to know what I got from some viewers in response? Yeah, but Michael, the show at the Sphere was really good.
Stormcop says, Michael, what about all the bands that signed up to be on the ticket? Is it going to be 2 days?
Yeah, good question, Stormcop. In case you guys didn't hear that, Kimberly's going, what about the bands who signed up to be on the ticket? Well, they signed up. This was months in advance. I can guarantee you, way before all of this, there was a lot of talk behind the scenes and everything. People are doing studies on just how well this concert could start and how to best promote it and everything. So yeah, they'll be there. Of course, they're going to be there. They're going to promote this as the Live Aid event of the 21st century, I'm sure, for heavy metal. And that's, to me, it's just false advertising right from the get-go. Right? Because people bought before. They were buying tickets before all the bands were even announced. I mean, you had a core set of bands, but people were buying under the power of Black Sabbath. All those bands didn't have their likenesses on that poster. That was Black Sabbath, right? So when people bought to see Sabbath, they go, oh, bonus, so-and-so's going to be there. Sammy Hagar, who's never met a genre he couldn't sneak his ass into. I love Sammy Hagar. He's one of my favorite vocalists, but man, what a thing he's turned into. Don't like the way he treated Jason Bonham. But I didn't want to stick too long on Don Henley. What about Don Felder? Now he's on tour on a Princess Cruise Line or something. I don't know. You know, he's on a yacht or a cruise ship, and as so many bands are, boy, that's rock and roll, right? Yeah, we're in a lounge on a cruise ship.
Oh, it's really rock
You
and
know,
roll on the boat.
yeah, you're right, babe.
Yeah.
Um, but no, seriously, he's there and he gets lightheaded, nearly passes out. They had to escort him off stage. Now, he made light of it later, and he actually made a very pithy comeback, and as good as you can do if you pass out on stage. I've been near that myself um, on stage a couple of times in my life, going, oh man, I hope I can make it through this set. So that could happen to anybody at any age, really. But then I noticed the interview and what he looked like. That man has aged a lot in the last few years. And I'm wondering if maybe he's getting too frail for the whole thing. What else was this? Poston, Ozzy, did I get everybody here? Phil Collins, of course. Oh, and Peter Frampton. Oh, I've got two more people I can bring up. Peter Frampton. All right, now it's one thing to sit in the chair. As we've talked about, Phil Collins got away with it. And I guess I'm kind of okay with that. And I guess I'd pay to see Peter Frampton in a chair. Uh, I don't need to see him prancing all up and down. It's not like he's got that long blonde hair anymore, or any hair anymore, practically. But he's still one of my big heroes. I'd love to see him. If he could play in a chair and sing well, that'd be worth it. Except now he says sometimes his fingers aren't working. And so he's learned this one finger trick to get through the solos. All right. Again, when I go see somebody, I want to see them at their best, folks. I don't want to see, you know, them at the end of, I'm just not interested, in that. I mean, if he was playing at a fairground, it cost me $5 to get in, maybe. But these guys are touring for a lot more than that. And I know he's not getting tip top dollar anymore. That's why a lot of these people are touring with other folks, right? You've got Kevin Cronin touring with Styx now because he can't tour under the name REO Speedwagon. Okay, so there's always that trick. Now, here's another thing. We're talking about Ronnie Platt's cancer diagnosis. What about Ann Wilson's cancer diagnosis? Now, evidently, she's getting it treated, I suppose, and they're still out there going to be touring. But it's not just the cancer scare. But there's been a lot, and I haven't listened to a lot of their latest stuff, but there's been a lot of criticism that her vocals are nowhere near what they used to be. Again, another situation where you have the singing not being what you remember. It's not like Bob Dylan, going to see Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was terrible to begin with. I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, he's not got a classically trained, beautiful voice. You either love Dylan's voice or you don't, right? I love his songwriting. I'm not crazy about Dylan's voice. What was that? What was that? What was that? Didn't you? That type of. It drones after about two or three songs, and I got to take the needle off. But his songs, oh my God, and lyrics, he's one of the masters for sure. All right, let's get on down here. I'm going to skip down to some of these later comments because there's no way I can catch up with you folks. Let's get down here. Winslow, Red Cross, Henley and the Eagles should retire. I agree. I was going to see, this is Angelo. I was going to see Jeff Lynne. I was willing to pay $79 for the ticket, but parking was also $79. No thanks. And that's what I'm talking about, buddy. That's was that Angelo? Yes. That's what I was talking about, Angelo. Every business within 10 miles of that place, if they can connect, they will connect. That means the airlines, right? that are flying a lot of fans in to see these big shows, right? And yeah, Jeff Lynne, I was going to put him on this list, because he's retiring it all. But really, he's been, and at least he's a little more honest. I guess he's billing himself as Jeff Lynne's ELO. Is that right? Somebody let me know. But I think that's what he's billing himself. So that's a little more honest. But ELO as Electric Light Orchestra, not Jeff Lynne, the famous producer, not Jeff Lynne, the guy who wrote most of their songs, but as a group, has long ceased to be. And I just don't know how long Jeff has been billing himself as Jeff Lynne's ELO, because to me, that's a little bit more honest, right? But if he is out there billing himself as Electric Light Orchestra, he's just one of several members, in my opinion. Hey, White Monkey, good to see you. Let's see. What else do we have here? Gary Spring. If I pay for a live concert, I bloody well want real singing. Absolutely. And you know what? Despite what I've said about Paul tonight, at least he is doing his real singing. You are getting the real deal. Not so much with, and it's not just Don Henley, folks. There's a slew of folks out there. Wings of Pegasus, great channel. What he does is an analysis on these guys, and he breaks it down. He'll show you where the vocal goes awry versus the live, so-called live vocal, and he finds, he breaks it down on computer. That's not them live. That's taken from an earlier show or even right off an album track, right? So when I say he's not the only one doing it, there are plenty. What about David Coverdale? Now, David isn't, well, he is. He's lip syncing, but he does it a little bit differently. You know how he gets away with it? He hires singers in the background to handle the parts that he can't sing. And then when he gets up to some high yelp, some Deep Purple high yelp, the guy backstage takes over and he just, right? That's all he does. Okay. So that's lip syncing. It doesn't matter that they got, see, to me, the honest thing would be have that guy come on out on stage, put him off to the side. He's not the star of the show. But if he's helping, enhance your lacking vocals, David, then be honest about that. Bring the guy on out, not some guy behind the stage. Fleetwood Mac tried that with their comeback. Remember? All these extra, people in back of the stage, but the back of the stage is darkened, and a lot of bands, will do that to enhance their sound. And I come from the old days when, no, man, the band just shows up and they play whatever parts they can. That's why I loved Led Zeppelin. Oh, well, that song has four, no, wait a minute. If you count that part, six overdubs of Jimmy Page playing guitar. How are they going to get away with that? They don't. Jimmy plays one of those parts interchangeably. Maybe he plays all of them, but one after another. It's total jam experience, And so when a band came out and they had orchestration on their song, they didn't have a tape. Now, if they did a TV show, of course, and then lip syncing is part of that whole thing, I hate that. I've never liked that. I like live performances, right? And I want to hear what the band can do there. If there's 5 of you in the band I'm a fan of, let's see what the 5 of you can pull off live. All right? I don't want to hear the 82 Lush Orchestra unless you can afford to have them up on stage right next to you. Then I'd love to hear it. But I want it to be honest. I want it to, if I'm going to go see something live, I want to see something live. I don't want to go watch a movie of a play. What if that's how plays were done? Everybody, they rehearse, and then they finally shoot it with no audience. And then the audience pays to see the play, and really it's just a screen up there showing the acting, how would you feel? No, there's something about the liveness of it. The chance that you might screw up, especially in plays. Man, I've seen some great comebacks in plays. People bucking, they screw up and totally have, the audience in, just right like putty in their hands, right? And that's what I love about live music. It's always got to be something uh, that is being done in front of me. Okay. It's like you don't watch a movie about going on a hike. You get out, you know, you put your hiking boots on, you grab your water, put your earbuds in, wait for the sun to shine, and you go out and you trek, right? You experience it. You don't need a virtual walk through the woods.
Oh, you got that.
Although I'll bet you there are video games where you can do exactly that.
Michael Boswell gave you $5.
Oh, who did?
Michael Boswell.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. Did he? I don't mind backing tracks as I want to hear it, as I hear it on the radio. Okay, I'm going to get to you, Michael, and thank you so much for your wonderful donation. Look for your shout out on my next video. Whether that be a replay of a portion of this, it'll be my next video on my latest six. All right. I appreciate that, brother. And every bit of it will go to enhancing this exact program. Now, Michael, you are the one, this is the one comment that I have heard more often in defense of having backing tracks. Now, and I know there is an audience that just wants it to sound like the radio. But Michael, I'm wondering, is it an audience that demands it to sound like the radio, or is it an audience that assumes it'll sound like the radio? What's that?
Divine Dragons is in.
Oh, hi, Dragon. Good to see you, buddy. So, anyway, when I think of that, all right, I'm trying to remember the name of the band that had to shut down their whole show. Okay. And because they had left their laptops, what was it? Probably at the dry cleaners, right? And they couldn't do their show. They were a several piece band that all played instruments, but there are so many tracks added to their music that they couldn't replicate it. And Michael, you bring up a good point too, because that was one of the reasons, besides the fact that nobody could hear themselves play anymore, that's one of the reasons the Beatles quit touring, was because they were starting to produce music and write music that couldn't be reproduced. They said they could barely reproduce Nowhere Man, right? And those vocals at the beginning, that three-part harmony and stuff, that was quite a feat to pull off live. Now, you got to understand, probably at that time in their career, they're playing through 125-watt amps, through a system, that, I don't know, a couple of thousand watts for the PA system, but it often sounded like, because they were playing in large venues and not great PA systems and everything else. So I understand that, and to a degree, I'm okay with keyboards handling backing parts. I don't like it when they're programmed to sound exactly like the backing parts. I like it when they get like an almost synthesizer blend of that orchestration. That's a lot what Michael Pender would supply on his Pendertron. A Pender what? His Pendertron. All right. Michael was responsible for inventing an early form of synthesizer, and he was called the Pendertron. That's how the Moody Blues performed a lot of their more exotic tracks live. Now, even with Michael on keyboards, it sounded pretty bare bones. But you knew that at least that Michael was playing the parts, right? And so so you could still, ooh, will there be oh, he did it just perfect. That's what you wanted. You weren't looking for the mistakes. You were there to see, could they pull it off letter perfect this time, right? So I understand that, wanting it to sound as close. But backing track, now, to me, there's two good reasons, Michael, why I would consider backing tracks okay. All right. A church bell ringing, right? Storm cloud, not storm clouds, because they don't make a sound, but the thunder out of those clouds do. So you hear distant thunder, right? And then the pattering of rain. Then Ozzy and Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward come out on stage, and we hear Ozzy sing, "What is this that stands before me?" Right?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, I'm right there with you. Backing track, they don't have a real church bell there. They didn't just accidentally play on a night that it was raining and thundering, right? We know there's a backing track there. I'll give you another example. The Who, when they toured Quadrophenia, I went to see them. Yeah, famous concert, and we're not going to talk about that tonight. But when I went and saw them, their whole, they have that whole loop. That they did. What was that on? Was that on a ARP? I'm trying to remember what they played, but it was synthesizer. It's a loop, synthesizer loop. But the rest of the band, Michael, was completely live. Now Pete had written that song so that it would go with that loop happening for long, long periods in that song. So I have no problem with that. Okay, that's an effect that created a mood on the album that when I listened to the album right away, I knew right away, well, that's not the Who, although I probably thought, yeah, that's Pete banging that church bell in some haunted cemetery. I was a teenager. I'd buy into anything. But under those conditions, I'm okay with backing tracks. But as far as orchestras being played, yeah, see, here's the problem, Michael. It's not just the backing track. See, in order to sync everything up, now they have to introduce a click track. Now you got to keep your drummer on cue. And we know what happens when they do that. How about Motley Spew? Last year, Tommy Lee sat down before he got his ass on the drum throne, the drums started. And then he tried to lie and say, oh, it was the click track. No, that was cymbal, snare, bass drum. Sorry, buddy. Lie, lie, lie. But Motley Spew likes to lie a lot, right? And they can't land a plane worth a damn. But see, then you got the click track, Michael. Then you've got not only that click track, but the drums are now leaning on the click track. Where's the pulsive energy? Where's the when somebody gets inspired and wants to do this, and the band decides to go thump bum 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 and stumble along? That's part of jamming on stage. We miss that. That's an excitement that a lot of audience don't even know existed in past concerts, man. And I miss that. So, but great. And I know I'm not the only. I know I'm far from the majority on my opinion on that, but I'm not for backing tracks beyond what I just said, Michael. A good question or a good statement there. Helene, what do you think about symphonic rock where the orchestra and the chorus is on tape and the band and the vocalist is live? Well, probably before you got in, Helene, I was talking about that's one of my problems with Wicks that plays with Paul McCartney and doing Eleanor Rigby. Uh, he's playing all the violins and stuff, And someone else brought in, I really missed when Paul McCartney used to play with Howie Casey and his band of merry men back there to supply, the horn section. He doesn't do that anymore. And he's a billionaire. And to me, no. I think that, for example, I'll give you an example of what I would consider acceptable, Helene. Michael Pinder with the Moody Blues doing his best to do the orchestration, but he's playing it, right? That would be acceptable to me. You know what would be even better? Have them go to Red Rocks. Yeah, you know where I'm coming from, right, Helene? Moody Blues performed in Red Rocks, and they had a full damn orchestra there to play every damn piece. It's one of the most powerful concerts ever filmed. Wonderful, wonderful. If you haven't seen that film, folks, you better see it. The Moody Blues live at Red Rocks. Oh my God. All right. One of nature's most precious amphitheaters. How organic is that? With real strings. What, they had a 45-piece orchestra, I'm sure. If not more. I'm sure they had at least a 45-piece orchestra on that. And then you've got the drummer coming in, cold-hearted orb. Oh, I love that stuff. But is as close as it can be. And Helene, you know this, and I know you're a major Zeppelin fan. That's one of the things we loved about Zeppelin, right? Was their jam ability. There to watch Jimmy put himself in a corner and see if he could get out. To watch John Paul Jones go from playing some of the hottest bass on the planet and then doing the keyboards, and you go, but who's playing bass now? And then you look at his feet and he's playing a bass pedal. You know, I mean, wow, now that to me, that's exciting. To listen to a band that's got a 40-piece orchestra and a click track, their drummers attaching to that, and then you've got to ask yourself, how much of that live drum is live and how much is it actually the studio drum, and he's just going along with it because the studio drums has that nice gated sound that you can't quite get live, or a hollow sound, or they're going to use the studio sound and then he's going to use a live effects and they start blending it. Is it live or is it Memorex? I've always used that out, as you will. And to me, live music, well, let's see. Live music. What's so weird about, oh, it's the live part. Okay? It's the live part that turns me on. See, to call it live music and it's canned, I don't know. That was always my problem with television shows and the lip syncing and all of that. The first time I ever saw Steely Dan was on American Bandstand, and Dick Clark, and they're getting up there, you know, and you're hearing them saying, "Get back, Jack, do it again." Ooh, I love that album. Went out that afternoon and bought it. Became a Steely Dan fan because I saw him on American Bandstand. So on one hand, I wouldn't have been a Steely Dan fan maybe if I hadn't saw him on American Bandstand. Certainly, I wouldn't have been as big a fan of theirs as early as I was if I hadn't saw him on Bandstand. But it wasn't them playing. Dick Clark, I don't think he ever had anybody play live. Did he? You know, there were variety shows where they played live, and I liked that. Smothers Brothers, most of the time was live. I think most of that of the Who that damaged Pete Townshend's hearing when they showed up on the Smothers Brothers show, and what was it? Keith Moon put a little bit more explosive. I think they had planned the explosive, but not quite that much. And of course, Moon the Loon, right? Uh, let's see what else is going on here. The only band who can get away with backing tracks is Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd. Yeah, no, I'm not for that. They've got a great keyboardist, or did. We're talking about Floyd in the day. Pink Floyd, the real Pink Floyd, is anything before Roger Waters leaving, right? However, I really love the Division Bell. There, spit it out. I really like that album, and I see it as a Pink Floyd album only because of the shenanigans that Roger Waters did to get out there. Then they stopped using the name. I'm kind of going, oh yeah, all right, you damn well better use that name. Yeah, Division Bell. That was kind of my reaction, right? But no, Pink Floyd, man, no, they've got enough instrumentation. Now I can see if they started doing that, that's the same thing, off of Dark Side of the Moon that the Who was doing, from the Who's Next when I went and saw them. So that's cool. Again, another loop that is, but it doesn't stop the band from, like slowing down or going or whatever. Of course, they can't slow down while the loop is going, but when it dissipates and the band goes into full production, they're still doing live. Anything that doesn't interfere with the live performance. But you got to understand, you go, well, how can having an orchestra interfere with the live performance? You're stuck with the timing. You're stuck with parts. You can't extend a solo. You can't extend a verse if you felt like it. And some of the best, on the spot kind of, caught it at the last minute there kinds of things happened, you know, at concerts that I saw live. It was just absolutely wonderful. And then when I saw a band like Queen, first time I saw Queen was at Winterland, and I couldn't believe a band sounded like that, right? And I didn't understand, the concept at that time of backing tracks didn't enter my mind. I wasn't technically savvy, and backing tracks in those days were very limited in using them. But I didn't know about Brian May putting devices, working on his guitar so that he could play two guitar solos at the same time, you know, um, and all of that. And I was just absolutely blown away with how good they were live. When I saw Yes, now talk about orchestration, Helene. I mean, Yes is orchestra rock incarnate, right? I mean, that's their whole sound. Especially if you think, well, my favorite Yes album has to be Close to the Edge. That first side, that's perfectly what I'm talking about. But that whole first side could be played live by every single one of those members, and they were when they played. Now I saw them not with my favorite lineup. My favorite lineup with them was John Anderson, Chris Squire, Bill Bruford, Rick Wakeman, and who am I missing? Oh, guitar player Steve Howe. That's my favorite. When I saw him, Trevor Raven, was that him? Trevor Raven was up there. Steve Howe was there that night. They brought him back, and the two of them kind of together. And of course, Chris Squire was there. Alan White was on drums. And was it Trevor Horn on keyboards? I'm trying to remember who was on keyboards that night. And of course, John Anderson singing. But that was my second concert of Queen. That night I saw Yes, and Paul McCartney at the Cow Palace are the tightest band or live music I've ever seen, and no backing tracks. So I love that. All right, so who else do we got? Hey, it's good to see you, Dragon. Glad you finally made it. Doc, your fireplace is raging out of control. Hope you got a fire extinguisher nearby. While I'm chewing gum, I'll just spit on the damn thing. Put it out that way. That's how we do it where I come from. All right, let's see who else we got here. CC karaoke? Karaoke. Oh, I see what you did there. I like that. Linkin Park did a great job of having backings while also making the live experience differ. Now, I'm not really familiar with Linkin Park all that much. It's not really my style that turns me on, but I'll take your word for that. Again, I see it hard, but maybe you know something. Karaoke, let us know. Maybe you know something how they made that interesting, because I'd like to see how that was done. Because if you've got set tracks, you can't go too far away from there. But I've seen some looping artists. I even did a little bit of looping. I was going to, do an acoustic guitar loop several parts and harmonies and stuff like that. See, I have no problems with backing tracks like that because you're creating those backing tracks right in the moment, right? You watch the guy sing the first line, and now you're watching the guy sing the harmony to it. That becomes an entertainment all on its own. Royce, it's good to see you, my man. Everybody check out Royce in the house. I haven't brought him up. You'll hear me bring him up quite a bit on my Sunday streams, which I stream every Sunday at 5 p.m. And I do that in conjunction to kind of, introduce into Royce, right? I stream from 5 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, then Royce streams from 6:30. And most of the time, I didn't get up there last week and I didn't get to stream on Sunday because I was under the weather. And thank you, by the way, folks, for all of your wonderful, God, best wishes and everything. You you put a blush in my face, and you know what? You made me want to just get up and get better and make more videos. And you had a lot to do with me getting better a lot faster, and I always appreciate that. But check out Royce in the house every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. All right. And when I stream, it's 5 Pacific Standard Time. So between the two of us, we've got at least 2 hours and probably more of entertainment for you. We often go over a little bit over on Royce's. I can't go over on mine because I've got to get ready to be up on Royce immediately after. So I want to thank you all for all of you who have shown up on Royce's. His channel is growing now. Oh man, I'm telling you. And you know, the last time I was up on Royce for the most of the show, it was just me and Royce. And God, Royce, I agree with you. You and I did real well that night. When you're the only ones up, you kind of got to keep the ball going back and forth, don't you, bud? Let's see. I've been to Cheap Trick, Benatar, Journey, Brian Adams, Loverboy, and many others. They sound like the radio, and that's from Michael Boswell. Is that good or bad in your opinion, Michael? Let us know. Is that okay with you? Um, I haven't seen any of those bands ever. Uh, my wife is a major Brian Adams fan. I'm not. Loverboy never was. Journey, I liked early on. When the lights go down in the city, not my favorite. Um, but I love early Journey. All right, and not all, I don't dislike all their hits, but there's a couple of them that just drive me. Ugh, it's like going to the dentist, folks. Nobody wants that. Let's see who else is out there. Uh, oh, some of you just saying hi to each other. I love that. I love that. I love that whole sense of community. That's part of it. Want to talk about, Aunt Mildred's, zucchini bread recipe. That's fine. Whatever rings your bell. Kevin Hall, Beatles was a gym announcement system in Sydney. The Vox backline was louder. And those Voxes, by the time they got to Sydney, I'm trying to remember. Was Sydney before Shay? I'm trying to remember. It may have been before Shay. If it was before Shay, those Voxes were 30 watts. After Shay, Vox built a special 100-watt amplifier for the Beatles. All right. I've got 100-watt amps in here. This is my, right here, folks, that I'm touching is a PA system, 1200 watts RMS. That means peak. That's not peak power. That's what it'll kick out. Just friendly. Hey, how you doing? You know. So what I've got in this room outcooked what the Beatles played on their first, especially their first tours, man. 30-watt amps. I've got a little Fender up here. This one's 20. No, this might even be 10. But this is a practice amp, man. Or I might use it for recording because you can get some real good sounds out of practice amps. So, but 30 watts, I mean, that's good for a club. Seriously. Large club, 30 watts a lot louder than you think it is. But for Shea Stadium and Sydney, are you kidding me? Yeah, 100 watts wasn't enough. And you're saying the back line sounded louder than the PA system. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Let's see here. Kitchener Leslie, any Graham Bonnet fans here? That guy can still sing at the top of his range. I'm not familiar with Graham Bonnet. Somebody let me know. I'll check him out. I always review these streams after, and I'll check him out. Maybe I have heard him, and the name's not clicking. I'm not sure. Where's he from, buddy? Let's see. Riders on the Storm. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, now we're getting to it. James Watson, good to see you, my man. Thunder only happens when it's raining. That's true. And not by backup tracks, you know. Um, no, yeah, Fleetwood Mac would never use backup tracks. They just used blacked out musicians, right? Same thing. It's kind of dishonest when you think about it, but that's the way it is. That's cool. The Cars was a fantastic studio band. I saw their live show. It was not very good, and I love the Cars. Dwayne Chamberlain says that. I never saw the Cars live. I've seen live videos of them, and it sounded good, but I also know that the video, it was live. You could tell they're playing live, and they sounded good. But that's coming from a soundboard. I mean, they record it through a soundboard and they can remix that. Every instrument has its own thing, and then they remix it for live. It sounded good when I saw them, but that doesn't mean they sounded good live in front of that audience. The mix may have been way off, right? And often they'll go back and repair um, mistakes with live albums and even live videos. They'll go back and, oh, I didn't play that note. Well, we'll just pan to camera two on Frank while Joe makes the mistake, and then we'll repair Joe's mistake in the mix. That's kind of how that goes. All right, let's see. Mr. Brown Bear, Blood Rock. Yes. Yo, Divining Angelo. All right. It's good to see you guys talking up a storm in here. Brenda Snow, coincidentally, I saw Foreigner at Hammerjacks. The sound was great, and the same gray, long, bearded man was at the console. Very good. All right. Doc Insomnia, I saw the Cars live, and they were great. Central Park, 1979. Now, I had always heard they were great, but maybe this is what, after whatever. I mean, after Benjamin or died, I wasn't interested in them. Even though I know what's his name was the main songwriter and all of that. He was kind of like, you know, um, I'll tell you, my favorite car song, I choose small C songs, is what is that one called? Drive? Is it Drive? Who's gonna take you home? Oh, I love that song. And it wasn't that Benjamin Orr that sang that. Now I like the fact the guy wrote songs and then would let other people sing his songs in the band. I did that in my last band. Garth would sing three or four of my songs. Right. As a matter of fact, I've got a song at that radio station. I should probably put that out on my Patreon. It's called. I wrote the song. It's called "She's Only Just a Woman." And he told me, "I want to sing that song." I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because that's how I talk. She's only just a woman, you know." And it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of song. And we're at that live radio station, and he does the vocals on it. Maybe I'll share that over on Patreon. Let's see. Divining Dragon, love Tom Petty. Oh, me too, brother. Me too. What I loved about Tom Petty was, and the Cars were known to do this too. They would purposefully mix their records to sound cool on a 4-inch Pinto speaker in a Ford. I mean, I always use that, analogy. But they mixed their albums to sound good on radio, um, cheap AM radios, and through a cheap AM radio broadcast. Right. That's how they mix their albums to make sure that and they wanted their albums to sound as close as it did on the radio. And of course, they mixed their sound to sound good on a very limited soundscape there, and I loved their whole, it wound up sounding very generic, not generic, organic, opposite of generic to me. They had a very organic sound, so I agree with you there. Let's see, what else do we got going here? Uh,
Oh boy.
okay. Brenda disagrees with me with drummers. And you know what? My brother, one of my brothers, is a fantastic percussionist. And yeah, he could do things around a click track, right? And if that's what's happening, I could see a basic drum click track. So that's a good point. Yeah. See, you guys get me thinking, right? If you've got a drum track, let's just say the drum track's your basic backbeat, four on the floor, right? And your snare hitting on the two and the four beat, and your hi hat keeping bass with what would that be? Eighth notes, and you got bah, you got that going, and then you got all this other stuff going, and they take off from that and build a collage. Then that would kind of be going along with what I was talking about, with how the Who did with the synthesizer loop they used, and who else was it? The other example I gave of someone using a very similar device, or tactic, church bells, all right, thunderstorms, things like that. Then, yeah, okay, I could go with that. Motor Speedway Incorporated. This is Stormcock James here saying Speedways Incorporated. He has already addressed that, sir. You can watch the full live over there. Which was, oh, are you talking to Motor City? Okay, I didn't catch that, and I'm not seeing it for some reason. But yeah, if you haven't seen my video, please get on over there and see it, because it's not just an out and out criticism of Paul McCartney. It does bring up the point: is it time for him? I actually bring up this basically. What I say in that video is this: is we all get old. All right. There's a reason I'm not out playing anymore. All right. I've retired from live playing. All right. I still put together demos. I'm still writing songs in my head. I still, and I haven't made a retirement announcement. I just quit playing so I could do this fine gig for you folks. Right. But I also reserve the right to go back anytime I want. And I'll have to deal. My voice is nowhere near what it used to be when I was in my 20s. I sang second tenor. I could get really high. And I've got some of my demos from back then, these little 4-track demos that I did. But you could tell my voice, and none of it's falsetto, man. It's all way up there. And I can't reach those notes anymore, right? I'd have to go into falsetto. And there is a rasp to my voice as I've gotten older. I'm not as mellifluous as I used to be. There's no doubt about that.
Stormcup says your demo rocks.
My demo rocks. Oh, did you say? Oh, yes. I did a. You know what? That demo. I'll tell you what that demo is all about. Stormcop. My mother was dying of cancer. And we were all taken care of. She was staying at my brother's house in a granny unit up in Lake County, just north of San Francisco, probably about 120 miles when you get up to Lake County, and I wrote those lyrics about her because as time progressed, she seemed to not connect with me as much. And that's what that's about. And then the whole second verse on that says, here I am, I'm next at the station. Well, for me, I'm the next oldest in the family. I'm the patriarch now of my family. There's no other Nolands older than me, right? And boy, I'm going to tell you, the death of a parent, especially if you're the oldest and the next one up to bat, yeah, we all have to face. See, this is what I'm talking about, James. We all have to face getting older. We all have to face limitations and all of that. And this is another thing I've said many times. I'm okay with McCartney if he would just choose different material. He's trying to sing songs he can't sing anymore. I mean, that's so apparent, and yet he seems to get away with some of the rockers. Why not? The limited rockers, the get backs, ooh, I need your love, bait. 8 days a week seems to come across real good. All of that kind of stuff. And write stuff that goes with his new voice. Or now here's another thing, and I'm glad I haven't signed off yet. because I meant to bring this up. Somebody brought in, maybe it's time. I forget who brought this up. I'm sorry if I forgot your name. It's one of the comments in my last video. Paul McCartney needs to audition a new lead singer. What about that? Get somebody. I mean, Queen's been doing it, right? They don't have Freddie around anymore. So they've got Adam Warlock or whatever the freak his name is, right? So maybe Paul might consider, and then talk this young person up. It'd be a male because, Paul's voice and all of that. Talk him up, give him a push into his career. What a great send off that would be. And wouldn't it be a better show? Now, I wouldn't go see it. I've got to be honest with you. I wouldn't go see it. If I can't see Paul sing it, I don't want to go see it. And if Paul can't sing it, I don't want to go see Paul. Just gets down to that, but why not? Here's the main thing. Anybody that had a problem with my video, it always got down to this. Paul can decide when he's going to retire or not. And he's such a national, nay, international treasure that if he decides to show up at a kindergarten class and want to sing, we shall all take a nap and listen to Paul sing. He's that important to the universe. That's what I got. All right. And so if he is, then have him audition a new lead singer who can actually sing that wonderful. Remember how he's one of the greatest singers in rock and roll in his prime. Get somebody who can mimic that. Paul's there, right? Just like Mick Jones, just like Lou Graham's going to be there this year. There, you're all happy, right? Paul's there. He hasn't retired. Michael didn't get his way, right? You're all happy. And voila, Paul is now going to continue to absolutely tour until he's 100 because he's declaring he will live to 100. Problem solved. I don't have to go see him. I don't have to go see him now, and I'm not. You do get to go see him, and you get to hear the best freaking vocals that you've ever heard because he'll be mimicking the greatest freaking vocals you ever heard when Paul originally sang those songs. So there's your answer. Paul needs to audition a new lead singer for his band. What do you guys think? All right, folks. Looks like we've gone way over time. I meant to do an hour stream, and you know what? I just want to say a big thank you to all of you people who are showing up. I can't believe how many people show up on my streams. I thought it'd take me a little time to get a bit of an audience, and compared to like what Rachel was getting on her stream, this is no Rachel's Ghost or anything like that. But I thought I'd be, whacking the bushes for 15 viewers for a good 2 or 3 months before I get my feet wet. I'm still getting my feet wet. I don't think tonight's so-called performance was my best. I had my moments, I hope. All right. I appreciate you all being here and all of that. But I'm learning, right? And if I could just get connected and signed on without you guys trying to, you're all there to see me, and then you have to go and find me 5 seconds after I start. That's not good. So I'm going to do everything I can to improve that for you folks. All right. Everything I can. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. That's a bigger help than you think, folks. And a big thank you again to I'm trying to remember your name, who gave us that wonderful 5. Was it Michael? I think it was Michael. Thank you so much, Michael, for your wonderful super thanks. Any super thanks always goes right back into the channel. I'm not out buying illicit drugs with it or anything like that, folks, right? It goes right back into the channel and all of that. And hopefully I'll have a better up and running stream in no time. All right. I'm Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line. But tonight and anytime I stream, The Bottom Line becomes the Tribal Forum. And that's exactly what we did here tonight. Got a chance to talk to some of you. Had tons. I can't believe how many comments we've had. You can't keep up. They're just, it's like a little ticker tape. It just keeps rolling. But I thank each and every one of you. Caitlin, it's good to see you. Hey, how you doing, Caitlin? Caitlin, big time supporter. I couldn't see yours today, Caitlin, because I was getting set for this one. Otherwise, I'm usually over on Caitlin's stream. Let's see. Stormcop says, final thing here, Michael Nolan, the bottom line, you do need to get you a chair to help with your back, brother. I know you have trouble. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's mainly this chair that does it. You know, if I'm up like this, or if I'm just going about, I'm fine. But this chair, that's why you see me getting up all the time. And over on Royce's show, I just get up and leave. I'm still in with the conversation because I'm plugged in through, earplugs. They're my mic, and so I just have to get up and stretch my legs off camera, you know, and so that's the way it goes. All right. Well, we made nearly a 2-hour stream tonight. That's a that's a record right there. All right, so it's Thursday. I hope to shoot my next video here either tomorrow or the next day, and then of course I'll be streaming on Sunday. What are we going to talk about? Well, you know what? Royce and I got a couple of ideas. He might be talking about something, and maybe I'll kind of do a tantalizing little tidbit that'll flow even into what he's doing over there. All right. I've got a couple of ideas. Royce and I have already been messaging each other over the last couple of days. We're kind of fine tuning that's what I like about Royce. He'll ask me my opinion. Well, I'm thinking of covering this. What do you think? And I always let Royce do exactly what he wants. But if he asks for my opinion, that's me. I'm Rock's first opinionator. I'm not a critic. I'm not a fan. I'm Rock's first opinionator, folks. That's what I do. I got an opinion. I say what's on my mind, and then I say it to you. But I'm not so bought into it that I can't be talked away from it. That's why I like this whole idea of what has become the tribe. A tribe that is now 300, according to my latest stats, 300 more than it was 48 hours ago. What an amazing amount of growth the channel has experienced. And if you are one of those 300 brand new subscribers, welcome aboard. Welcome to the tribe. All right, folks. Again, my usual sign off is I'm Michael Nolan. This is the bottom line, but I'll say it this way tonight. I'm Michael Nolan. Tonight has been the Tribal Forum. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this damn thing we call the tribe, do so immediately and notify your nearest of kin. All right, folks, I'll see you next time. And I've enjoyed tonight, seriously. Hope you all have a great upcoming weekend. Night, all.